This case is about product market fit and customer development. In this case, by example of Airbnb, a leading company in consumer accommodation and a leading competitor to all of the hotels, we are going to learn how the company started with low-value propositions such as rent a mattress on the floor to sleep one night, and how it was able to move to high-quality content and being able to rent out the most luxurious properties by constantly learning from its customers and iterating on its product. In this class, you will learn and understand the different degrees of product market fit. You will understand the importance of direct customer feedback and how that feedback is used to inform the features of your minimum viable product, and also how to inform the direction in which features of that minimum viable product need to evolve to better satisfy customers. You will learn the importance of doing things that do not scale, and as illustrated by the statement by Brian Chesky, the Airbnb CEO, it often is more important to have 100 people that really love you than it is to have 1 million that kind of like you. And as it relates to doing things that scale, you will learn that in many cases it's more important to learn from 100 people that really love you than being able to learn from, again, 1 million people that kind of like you but not that much. And then finally, I will teach you and you will learn how to understand the signs of poor product market fit and how to use those signs, how to interpret them to identify the weak spots in your product and things which need to improve, and also how to inform the direction in which your product needs to change. Airbnb is a market leader in people renting housing from other people. This company allows anyone in the world to find a place to rent anywhere else and be able to stay overnight. It's as simple as this. The company started back in 2008 at a technology conference in Texas. It launched in that technology conference. Its first market was New York City back in 2009, 2010, and its first success came from New York City. The original product that the company offered was quite different from what we know it today. The original product was basically a rent a mattress on the floor. If someone has a space in their room and someone has a mattress, you can just come and crash at this mattress and pay some very limited fee. So the vision for the company was basically the founders wanted to make some quick money. They were never thought of it as worldwide company. They just thought of it as a New York specific platform to buy a place on a mattress. And then the company has been growing very fast over the last 10 years. It crossed $1 billion revenue per quarter. It has gone public back in 2020. It's currently valued at $100 billion, in the proximity of $100 billion, and is one of the most successful technology companies ever. And again, this whole big success started from just a couple guys being passionate about the idea and executing vigorously on this idea and learning rigorously from their customers on what they like and what they don't. At its beginning, Airbnb has launched as an inexpensive marketplace for renting airbeds on other people's floors. The story of this company is it was launched by two very inexperienced entrepreneurs. In fact, those people didn't even have much working experience, not to say much of experience building companies. And at the root of the company was just their understanding that there is a problem, that rent is very expensive, hotels are very expensive, and in fact, the problem is kind of fake in a sense that there is plenty of space in other people's homes and plenty of airbeds. So if you just needed an airbed and not a big hotel room, you should be able to find one. And there was no product in the market like that. Although the idea seemed straightforward and you would expect that this idea immediately resonates with customers, etc., this was not the case. And as many founders experience, the reality is much harsher than what you expect, and the product did not do well early on. The founders continued listening to the market, interviewing people, talking to them, trying to fine-tune the product and make changes to it, but still not much success. This is not a story of overnight success, where the product was immediately accepted by consumers and the company started growing. In fact, at one point, the founders had to go away from their original idea and to do things as far from their business as selling cereal, right? In fact, they were kidding, calling themselves serial entrepreneurs, not meaning cereal like when you do company in series, but cereal means I'm selling cereal, so I'm a serial entrepreneur. And that's also important to understand to better relate to the background of this company. So it had lots and lots of tough iterations early on, And some of those iterations included completely getting out of the rental space into doing whatever it takes to earn some money. Speeding forward, again, today this company is quite successful. It has more than $5 billion in cash available, so it could be going after acquisitions, it could be building products. It's basically free to do the things they believe is right. And it's by far the most popular marketplace for renting accommodations, even more expensive as a company than largest hotel chains. So this all happened within roughly 10 years, and it all started with a modest story of renting an airbed on somebody's floor. So the key problem Airbnb has faced is it launched with a great fanfare at the conference. It got positive feedback, so they thought they're up to an exciting journey and some great success. The reality was actually quite different. So they launched, they iterated, and they got zero traction. Like, no customers cared about them. And those customers that they were able to source from somewhere either decided to not use the product, or even if they did use the product, they would never recommend it to friends. And definitely they would never come and use it second time. So the situation was getting kind of desperate, and the company was iterating. It was listening to customers for more feedback. It was making changes, but after 3 iterations, nothing has changed. Nothing was helping. So in fact, they came very close to closing the company because of absolutely zero market traction. What saved them at that time, according to interviews, is they decided to give up on their original idea and just move to a completely different field of selling cereal. Like, they just decided to do whatever it takes to get money so that they could finance their operations for a little longer and they could stay afloat for a little bit longer. And that also must be understood. And the concept of launching the company, they launched it for just making quick money. So it was never launched as a startup with a vision of going multi-billion-dollar. It was just 2 scrappy entrepreneurs, very inexperienced, not even having much formal job experience, just doing something that would help them make some money. So that was the vision for that company. And they basically had to go from the vision of making quick money from renting airbeds to making quick money from selling cereal. And those cereal was also quite expensive. They were selling more than 1,000 boxes at $40 each. And at that time, they met an advisor who was generally not super excited about the idea behind the company. But he believed in the guys because, you know, he said, if you're able to sell those boxes of cereal for $40 each, I actually think that there is a chance that you're going to be able to build a successful company. And basically the problem again is zero traction, people running out of money, people running out of time, trying to do many different things. It doesn't work. Out of desperations, they try a completely different approach. And ultimately they meet someone who is putting their trust into them and basically helps them navigate the complex world of minimum viable product and helps them to define an MVP in a way that made sense to customers and enabled the company's future growth. The key limitation that this company has faced early on in its life cycle was that no customers cared about their product, and as a result, no revenue was coming in from those customers, and as a result of no revenue, the company was not able to keep improving its product and keep scaling its operations. So if we look deeper into limitation of no revenue and no customers caring about their product, it had multiple reasons for this. One is, regardless of the product quality, the customers were not accustomed to and not familiar with renting accommodations from other people. It was common to book a hotel, it was common to book an apartment, but it was not common to book a short-term accommodation from someone you don't even know. And even less common than that was booking an airbed on somebody's floor. So the problems with product market fit was very substantial limitation to their business. And normally you would be able to understand about those limitations by conducting some analysis and surveying people, etc. But in this case, the founders they were learning about this through their own hard experience. Next limitation is that the founders actually did not have much experience in this business. In fact, they did not have pretty much any experience, not any kind of working experience. They started this company to just make it a quick buck, and it was alternative for them to do a normal 9-to-5 job. That was a big limitation to their business and a big problem because if they had an experience, they could probably rely on it to be able to identify the direction which company needs to go. And the founders were clueless. They did not know where the company needs to go. The only thing they knew is that whatever they have is not working. And then finally, no revenue means cash is running out, and no cash usually means end of company's life, because at this stage, usually cash is king, and when you run out of cash, you're done. So getting run out of cash was the most significant limitation this company has faced as a result of no customers. The goal behind starting Airbnb, as Brian Chesky, CEO, is explaining, was to just make some quick money. He has never envisioned Airbnb as a huge global successful business. In fact, he was very young and he was just trying to do something that would allow him to make some quick bucks. He also calls it the worst idea that ever worked, in a sense that, again, the idea never meant to be a huge multinational, multi-billion-dollar corporation, but what it ended up with is much more ambitious than what they envisioned for the company early on. An immediate goal for the company early on in its life cycle was to acquire customers no matter what, and to get money from those customers so that the founders were able to basically sustain themselves and to continue iterating on the company. If we talk about the customer goals, there is two types of customers for this company. One type of customer is guests, and the goal for the guest is basically get an accommodation overnight at a reasonable price, reasonably safe, and reasonably conveniently, right? So you need to be able to book it on a relatively short notice at a relatively low price, and also to make sure that it's safe. And then the goals that hosts are solving is they have real estate, and real estate is expensive and it needs to be paid for. So they basically were pursuing the goal of converting their ownership of real estate into some rental income. That's the goals. There were some key actions the company and its founders have taken that allowed the company to survive early on and eventually transform into such a global market leader as it is today. First, early on, when the company had zero market traction and the customers did not want to use their service, and the founders were clueless why that happens and what to do about this because they were pretty inexperienced, the CEO Brian Chesky did the only right thing. So he started experiencing his own product as a customer, and he started going to live in strangers' houses for 3 to 5 days each time to validate himself that it's safe and that the hosts are actually fine with renting place this way, and that it's actually a good model for him as a renter. The next thing they've done is when things got really tough, and then when they run out of money, and after 3 iterations of product, customers still did not want to use them, they made a decision to not just shut down the company, which in many cases would be the decision. They decided to start selling cereal boxes, which was completely different from their main business. And the reason was that anything that made them make quick money worked at that time. And in fact, they were quite successful, having sold in a limited time 1,000 boxes of those cereal at $40 each, which allowed them to sustain themselves for a while. And what's even more importantly, it allowed them find a mentor, and ultimately the person who took them into a startup accelerator Y Combinator named Paul Graham, who said, once you guys figured out how to sell those cereals at $40 a box, maybe you will be able to figure out how to make other people stay in the strangers' homes. Otherwise, he just thought this idea was outright crazy and that people would never do that. In addition to that, several other things the founders have done, several actions they've taken which are quite important and made them closer to success. One is they went door to door and knocked on the homes to ask if someone would be a host on their program. So Brian Chesky, CEO himself, was going door to door, knocking on those doors, obviously getting lots of no's, but this way he was at least able to secure some customers, some hosts to join his platform. And then on demand generation side, one important action they've taken is, again, according to advice of their mentor Paul Graham and Y Combinator, the quality of content was quite bad and the website did not look trustworthy at all. And when people pick a place where they stay, especially if they're staying with their family, safety is really important and the website needed to make them feel safe. So what they've done is they up-leveled the quality of graphics on the website and quality of content. They started doing much higher quality photos, and some of those photos they've taken themselves, and some of those photos they hired professional photographers. But ultimately, the combination of those all actions resulted in the fact that they were able to start acquiring first customers, and from there the company started growing much faster and ended up in this place as a successful global company as it's today. So Airbnb started getting early customer demand for its services around mid-2009, when people started booking their product in New York City after they made all of those changes that we discussed before, after they elevated the content quality, after they sourced more hosts, and generally made the platform a lot more trustworthy. At that time, growth became an important priority for the company, and they did a number of different things to speed up growth. Some of them were obvious, like they posted on Craigslist, for example. They relied on a lot of word of mouth that they already benefited from, because people who come to New York City are usually travelers. And that's good for the company because travelers not just need accommodation, so there is demand for accommodation from those travelers. But those travelers eventually go back to their home cities, and they do create quite a bit of word of mouth for Airbnb and its product, because people often ask you, like, where did you stay? How was it? Like, how was your experience? So that was all working really well for the founders. In addition to that, they had some meetings with hosts and entrepreneurs, so they were contributing into more word of mouth to get company more viral and to help it grow faster. But ultimately, the main insights of this class for us is it is important to make customers love you. And then how do you make customers love you is by exceeding their expectations. That's the only known way to make customers love you. And you cannot exceed expectations until you understand those expectations. And you also need to understand that you can always do better. From whatever quality of service you have, you can do better. Currently, service is usually measured by stars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And sometimes for you to understand what customers really think and what their preferences are, you need to ask them questions going beyond 5 stars. Like when you ask people on what 5-star experience with airport pickup for you is, many people would say, well, the cab came on time and it was not too expensive and I got home safe and I was able to relax after that. So that would be already a 5-star experience. What happens if you ask, what's the 6-star experience, 7-star, 8-star? The answers usually will be different. In many cases, customers don't even know what it would be like because they never experienced this. But the answers could be like, for 6 stars, you would get not a plain car, but a limo, and they would have water for you, and the ride would be especially pleasant, for example. For more stars, like 7, 8, 9, 10, at some point, someone will tell you that, maybe I'll have a Beatles concert just done for me and my family on my way back from the airport to home. And then maybe I have unlimited water and ice cream in the car or something like that. So by asking those questions and by learning the customer preferences, you'll be able to better understand what the expectations are. And only by learning from those expectations, you'll be able to exceed them and ultimately be able to customers love your product and your company. There are several key lessons I expect you from this class. First, there are several degrees of product market fit and to what extent customers like you or love you. The examples would be customer likes the product. That's some form of product market fit. And then customer loves the product. That's also product market fit, but more like a stronger one. And then further level of product market fit is customer loves your product and talks about everyone, talks to everyone about your product. That's the strongest and arguably the most desirable, the degree of product market fit to which Airbnb was able to get to. And obviously they started with customers completely don't care. So they've taken the path and they've followed the route of all of those phases and degrees of product market fit, starting with no love to some liking to loving and then to loving and talking to everyone. And that's why I ended up being so successful in the marketplace. Second important lesson and learning is how important it is the direct customer feedback and how much you can learn from talking to your customers, especially when things are not working well for your company, which was the case with Airbnb. From this case, we know that Brian Chesky, CEO, went to live in the stranger's home, so he did experience his own product as a guest. and he was able to get confidence that it's safe and in fact it could work. He did go door to door with hosts to acquire hosts and obviously talk to them and collected feedback what would be more interesting for them to start renting their place on Airbnb. Using all this feedback, he was able to improve the product quite a bit, and also like a concept of doing things that do not scale. By experiencing his product as a customer, he was also talking to a much smaller number of customers that many people believe is even reasonable. But talking to a small number of customers who really love you can help you fine-tune your product and can be a lot more useful than talking to or getting feedback from a million people who don't really like you and give you noisy inputs, not quite actionable. Next, it's to build a product customers love, you need to exceed their expectations. And to exceed their expectations, you have to understand their expectations first. So you need to be able to visualize and verbalize awesome customer experience and how this experience matches their expectations. And on the path there, you do need to be ready to do things that do not scale. And some of those things are irrelevant to you when your company becomes big. But if you don't do them, you will never have a chance to become big. So doing those things that don't scale, to learn from small number of customers who really love you, is important for you to learn and exceed customer expectations. Finally, the fourth learning is you need to be able to understand the signs of poor product market fit when things are not working and when you need to be concerned and start making changes and start interviewing your customers to understand what exactly is not working. In case of Airbnb, no traction was a simple case when they clearly could understand that there is a poor product market fit. They've taken important actions based on this market feedback. They kept iterating on the product. They launched a completely new business on selling cereal to just sustain themselves financially. And ultimately, they were able to find a mentor and advice that allowed them to make changes that created first customer demand based on which the company started growing. Those are the main learnings from this class.